Ghost Coat Magazine welcomes in the whole band of Pyrrhon from New York City. How are you guys doing?
Cool, man.
Good,
How are you?
man.
Good.
Good. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. Super stoked to talk about Abscess Time on the eve of its release on Willow Tip Records, the very esteemed Willow Tip Records. And you guys have followed your whole career, and this is, I know that every band is very cliche. This is our finest work, which you have not said, but I will say, I think this is like a long time coming. This is a great album. And strangely, and the place that I kind of wanted to jump in was, there's no way you could have predicted 2020 before you wrote this record, but this record kind of is the music of 2020. Like, it's all the things of 2020 musically and emotionally to me after listening to it a bunch. And just some thoughts on Abscess Time and what a dumpster fire this year has been, and this album for many of you.
Well, I guess, we all went through the past several years together, and we wrote the music over those years, and everything has been shifting and changing, and I think we don't need to predict the way the times are going to go. It's sort of like the times happened with the music, I think, more so, and so it fits, but the way that we've all just been going along with the train wreck of the past few years that we've been dealing with since our last record.
Yeah, I would say that to some degree, the trajectory that produced this moment was pretty predictable. The specifics perhaps seem surprising, taken collectively, because so many strange seeming things are happening at once. But to me, I think in general, the gradually destabilizing arc of American politics and culture has been like pretty easy to make out for quite a long time. Not to say that I would have called any of the specific incidents that occurred this year, but like we built to this moment. It didn't come out of nowhere. So from my perspective, at least, I would say that our music has been drawing on that for like that general trajectory for a really long time. And, it's one of those situations where you don't really want to have been right about that stuff, but it seems like the product that we, created this time really happened to appear at a moment when people can see what we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah, it's certainly a product of the circumstances, I'd say. And also, everything you hear on the record and the last record too, honestly, is just, it's like a culmination of all our negative energy that we're trying to get rid of day to day. And so you get a result like this because of the world we live in. So I guess this is just kind of like chicken and egg kind of thing. It's like the world is shitty. So our music is really pissed off and angry and crazy and what it is,
Yeah, even aside from the lyrical stuff, musically, we've always just been about, conveying chaos, anxiety, discomfort, etc., those types of emotions. And I think the fact that so much awfulness is just right up in everyone's face right now makes it seem appropriate for what's happening.
Well said. Good answers there. Yeah, I definitely, the album takes you on a journey. Not the most pleasant one, but what is life in 2020 and what is life anyway. But brilliant through and through. I love the really well done samples, and I was going to ask about some of those. They seem to come at obviously very interesting and pivotal points of the album for me. Maybe I'm reading a little too much into it, but you guys let me know.
Well, Doug's kind of the sample guy, so I feel like he should.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah, that's like, the samples obviously have been a thing in death metal for many, many years, for like 30 fucking years at this point. And I always liked them because of the way that they can bring some levity and like a sense of absurdity to music that can otherwise seem like very self-serious and like heavy and, dour. Well, Pyrrhon is like pretty like emotionally severe experience. We also like, we're goofy people. We like to joke, and like there's definitely the humor creeps into our music. So I just, it's like a little just extra thing that I like to throw in at least one or two of in every record. We've been doing it since our first album. The second album, Mother of Virtues, originally had some samples on it, but they were removed at the insistence of the label because we didn't clear them.
Yeah, they were good.
Which is a shame because they were good. But in any case, yeah, I don't know. It's just like a way for us to express some silliness and some of our sense of humor in a context where it's not always super easy to do that because, you know, our music is so intense and it's hard to communicate that side of our personality by other means in that context. So yeah, in this case, a couple of the samples were things that we planned out well in advance, or like that I've been thinking about well in advance. And then the one usage of film sample on Overwinding, the like otherwise instrumental improvised song, that was something we kind of threw in at the last moment. Like we recorded it and we thought like, this is really cool, but we don't want to add vocals to it, but we feel like it could use some other layer. And like I had this like leftover sample idea to use this sample from the hell is it called?
Hudsucker Proxy.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys all know. I can't remember it.
Well, Steve cut it up. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's from the Coen movie, Hudsucker Proxy, and Steve was at home at that day, not in the studio, and so we kind of like text him and be like, Steve,
yeah,
could you make the sample right now? And so we were all, you know, at Colin Marston's studio, and Steve just kind of cranked out like a chopped up thing from that. Because I had like a minute of film dialogue that was like, we could use something from in here. And Steve kind of just like did some wizardry to it and turned it into what it eventually became.
All right, Steve. Good job, man.
Thank you.
Gold star for Steve.
Yeah, bud.
So many things to unpack, but I'm glad you brought up Colin early because I feel like he is kind of the fifth member of the band. Whether it's because you guys work with him so much, but also what he brings to the table. Do you want to talk a little bit about like clearly it keeps working, so if it ain't broke, don't break it, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll talk about Colin a little bit first. It's just because like he has such a wide range of knowledge in music. Like putting aside just sort of his sort of all the projects and like the depth of his work. He also knows all the references and influences and all the things that we're talking about. So like he has a good idea of how to navigate our music and kind of finds a good middle ground for how to record, mix, master it, the entire, you know, thing, the whole package. Because previously we'd only kind of done like mastering and then some mixing, mastering, and it just progressively became where like we were just like, oh, we want to live in 1,000 caves now. So we need you to go ahead and just we'll record everything with you and do everything with you and bother you every day. But I mean, all jokes aside, I mean, the guy is just like the best guy probably in the country, maybe even in the world, for us to do our stuff right now. I mean, I can't think of a single other person who could handle our influences, the extremity of our sound, and the production of our sound the way he does. I mean,
he's you know, being involved in the same scene for the past 10 years, he sort of watched and listened to us throughout the years, even when he wasn't, you know, mastering our records, just at dingy basement shows in Manhattan. So he was always familiar with the sounds we were making and the approach that we were taking to this kind of music, and he influenced us in his own bands, and so he's definitely a perfect person to handle the many weird things we like to do.
Colin's got some really early shows.
Yeah, some of the first that I was in.
I don't think he saw us before you joined the band, but that was only after like a year. So
yeah, exactly. 2009, you know, 2010.
And he's a hell of a guy. I got to meet him, and he's
excellent human.
Right? He really is.
He's great to work with.
Yeah, it's really funny. That's like a thing that really is important to us, is having a sense of humor. Like
that's very important. Absolutely. Yeah, he's a total goofball like us, which is great. And we can talk about ripping on Metallica all day, which is also great.
Yeah, all we talk about is Metallica. That's whether Colin's around or not, that's the only thing we ever discuss.
And Fieldy.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. Also, we talk about new metal a lot too. So mostly Korn, but really it's like whatever we're feeling at that time.
Is this a deep love of new metal or the opposite? I have a feeling it's not a love.
It's a whole lot.
I
is
like
what
new
it is.
metal.
Yeah.
I do too.
Dylan
I'm
and
not
Eric
ashamed of it.
legitimately like new metal.
It's a legitimate mix. Yeah.
We all grew up during that era, so it's all like we're all familiar with it enough that like we can at least joke about it.
Yeah.
I can't really listen to any of that stuff personally.
It's a hilarious genre of music. I mean,
But
I
it
like
is really
It's
funny.
also just really fun.
Yeah, it's objectively some of the funniest shit that's ever existed. So
It's all aged
like
pretty.
the fact that stuff was like dominating rock radio at one point is fucking amazing. Like it's
wild.
so
It never
funny.
should have happened.
Oh no,
TRL.
absolutely not.
It was on MTV when MTV still played music, which is unbelievable.
Mudvayne won the first MTV2 award, and it was, for Dig that everyone's just making fun of now.
Wow.
Like, every single day, a new, Berber Dang
Dang,
meme
man.
comes out. And that like informed me as a young kid playing bass.
I think you could
Amazing.
argue that Pyrrhon has a new metal influence just because it was just like part of the shit that we grew up with. So in the sense that everything that you process as creative input becomes part of you, you could say that we're new metal influence.
You could say. There's the gold nugget of dirt right there.
You could.
Steve's like, no, don't say that.
No, it's all good. I like that you guys, first of all, a lot of things are ridiculous in all genres of music, including extreme genres of music. Objectively, some of the heaviest music I love and listen to all the time is absurd and ridiculous. Yes. And Korn, if you like, not the sidebar because I'm so pumped to talk about this album, but like it is interesting that Korn came from nowhere. They didn't really have a scene. And they kind of like, they did this down tune thing on the 7 strings, whether it's simplistic or not. Those guys can actually all play music well and compose well. But like, yeah, it's just if you had told me in like 93 that this was going to happen in the next 15 years, I would not have believed it because I was like straight up melodic death metal back then and doom metal and and a lot of thrash, Metallica, sorry, and other bands beside Metallica. But like, yeah, like that was my background. And then like Korn and everything happened. Like, this is a particularly bad year because it's like Linkin Park, third record by Limp Bizkit. There's a Korn record that was big at this time, Follow the Leader. So it's like, it was like saturating at this point, badly. Badly, but I like a lot of that stuff, But yeah, all right, cool. The new metal influence of, I'm gonna be the only person with that interview.
Yeah, I think you got a gold nugget of dirt right there. It's pretty fun.
That's your headline right there, man.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, man, bringing it back to Abscess time. Do you feel like having been a band I feel like the longer timeline you're in as a band, you have to keep challenging yourself to make it interesting for you, and then vis-a-vis it becomes interesting for the listeners. But like, you can out extreme yourself. Like you see bands that just can, just like aesthetically keep trying to top themselves, but you guys actually do keep, alter arrangements and experiment with stuff and continue to improve. And I like I said, I feel like this is the best record you guys have done. So for you guys, what has it been like to be on this timeline creating? Is it like important to keep challenging yourself, or you don't think about it, you just make music? How does it work for you guys?
I think for me, I would say that I'm primarily concerned with impressing myself and the other 3 guys first. And I know that sounds like weird or whatever, but I think it's genuinely fun to just write a song. Since we all write in the band, we all write on guitar, etc. We like to just bring stuff in to make each other laugh pretty much. And if it's like something we like and something that we are impressed with, and then we keep moving with, then that's really it. I don't think we think too much about extremity for extremity's sake. I think we just, frankly, just get bored. So we like to mix it up and try different stuff. And the 4 of us are always constantly thinking of different angles to attack the songs. I think Dylan actually would probably have some pretty interesting insight on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like every time we finish an album, I'm immediately thinking about what I want to do differently next time. I don't know. I can't help myself. I just start kind of picking apart the finished record and, just thinking about ways that we can improve, different sounds that we can incorporate. We all are very diverse musical listeners. We like all sorts of kinds of music. It's not just heavy metal and stuff like that. So, we're just always trying to challenge ourselves. And I feel like extremity in the band comes from the desire to explore new sounds, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of self-criticism involved in the process. But also we just are trying to keep it interesting for ourselves. Pyrrhon's not a band where there's a lot of commercial or like professional pressure going on. We don't have to like crank out an album in a year and a half so we can go on tour again and sell the album on tour so we can make some more money so we can come out and crank another album out in another year and a half so you can go on tour again. I feel like that cycle of just being like trying to move units is something that compresses the creative process in a way that makes it difficult to try new things, and also like it makes it more risky to try new things, of course, right? So so because of both of those factors not really being involved in Pyrrhon, we can take our time and think about what we want to do, and there's no penalty for us trying something that maybe doesn't work out, other than like maybe we don't like it, we don't do it again, So we have a lot of freedom because we set the band up such that we're not beholden to anybody's idea of what we should do. We can just do what we want to do. And because we're all like curious, sort of exploration oriented listeners, there's lots of things that cross our minds as far as avenues that we could explore. So that's, I think, another aspect of it.
Yeah, there's just a sort of like a never settling for what we've done. It's like none of us are done like learning how to play our instrument or learning, what riffs are. Like there's no sort of limit to that, and we just get to tinker around, and it just so happens that after this many years we can just sort of expedite what we're working on to like what would work for Pyrrhon. Like, oh, like this is some crazy new weird shit that I haven't done before. Let me try it with these guys who will understand that urge to try something different, or to hear like, like the idea of it being simple or complex isn't really, doesn't have to be involved in making it interesting for us, because we can just keep trying new things.
Yeah, and I'm going to put it on that too, is that we almost always try an idea or a variation of a riff, or if we're talking about something to each other into space, and if just one of us thinks, why don't we try this? And even if we don't end up even keeping it, like that's just the kind of democracy we have in our band, where we just want to try everything so that we can say we've exhausted all the pathways, So that's one of the great things. We always joke in the band that we're never done. The song's never done.
It's not finished.
It's not finished, yeah. Which we literally joked about on one EP, but it's definitely a hallmark, I guess. It kind of sums it up for me.
That's awesome. Let's talk for a quick second about Caroline's artwork, because the visuals are striking and they like speak to me. It's like Seven Circle of Hell, but then you see the colors and it's like Midsommar, right? It's like a lot of blues and oranges. So it's like, I don't know how I feel about this. It's really insane. Let's talk. She's one of her finer pieces. Let's talk about it.
I think if you're going to say that someone is the fifth member of the band, you could say Colin, or you could say Caroline too, because she has been involved for just as long as Colin has. And obviously what she's doing is not, doesn't contribute to the sounds of the record, but for a band like us, that's, I think, I feel like there's like a pretty visual quality to our music. And also there's just a lot of symbolic overtones to what we're doing. The art is incredibly important. And so along those lines, this time around for Caroline's art, we didn't really give her much direction of any kind. Historically, we've tended to suggest like a central image or like something about the composition of it, right? Like there's been sort of this kernel provided for every album cover previously from the band. Whereas this time we were just like, what our aesthetic is, what the lyrics are, you've heard a bunch of the songs, so just do what you think is appropriate. And as usual, I think she outdid herself. And yeah, it's really an incredible resource and privilege to have someone sort of in like the nexus of the band who we can have like a really, long running collaborative relationship with for the art. I think that most bands of any kind, but even metal bands, they don't really have these kinds of tight knit bonds with the people who are doing their album art. Usually it's just like, you just email some guy and you're like, hey, like, what are your rates? And it's not really like that, like Caroline sees the entire process. She knows all of us really well. She knows where we're coming from creatively. And so we can just like we trust each other to make choices about our musical contributions to the record. We can trust her to use her judgment to do something that is super, super tightly meshed with the music that we're making. So
yeah, I would say Caroline really does a good job of considering the music when she's making the artwork. It's not like she's just making something that she thinks looks cool and just like, yeah, here you go, there's the art. I remember when she was making the art for our first full length, she would actually sit in the practice space with us while we were jamming, and she would kind of just be sketching out ideas. And I guess it's been a while since she's done that, but I'm sure, she's hearing the demos that Doug's listening to. She's seeing the songs live as we're working on them. So I think it's really cool to have an artist that's really paying close attention to just the overall sound of the band when they're making the artwork.
Yeah, and the other thing I like about that, you mentioned the colors. We as a group love the idea of having a very colorful record. There's a lot of black and white out there, a lot of gray, and Caroline has a penchant for putting some really eye-popping colors together, and it fits sort of our musical aesthetic in my view of things, where we use such a wide range of influences, and it's just sort of a serendipitous thing that she uses like a series of different colors. So I think that's definitely something that makes her stand out in the field. And I mean, it's really great, honestly.
Just as we wind this down, because I want to give you guys back your evening. You're awesome. I'm sure you're going to get ready to celebrate the new record tomorrow. Obviously, it's a crazy time in the world, and who knows what's going to happen with our beloved shows and tours and things like that. But and certainly I hope that all of you guys have been well. No one in your family's been ill, or your friends or anything, because or anybody has been fucked with by the police or anything in the protests or profiled, because we're just seeing all kinds of heinous shit in the world today. But what have you guys been doing on a positive tip? What have you been doing beside getting ready for the album creatively or just intellectually to just stay sharp and strong for whatever the next, murderous unicorns, underground crabs, aliens, whatever the fuck is coming next? What have you guys been doing to keep your spirits up?
Well, I've launched my first sort of solo project efforts, and Doug and Steve so far have also helped out raising money for the Black Visions Collective and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. It's this project called Clambake, and I've just been spitting out weird grind songs or death metal songs or just improv noise with whoever is willing to collaborate. And we just donate all the money straight to the people who are doing things and taking action. So that's been the majority of our focus, as well as finishing up the next Sepultus record that we've been picking at slowly for the past few years.
Yeah, I guess I'll comment on that. Thank you. Uh, yeah, so we've been working on a Sepius record follow-up for Man Does Not Give. It's been like 4 years. I've been working on, I had to write it, record it, all the other stuff, basically, and I started bringing people slowly into the fold to add different layers. And I finally now have most of the material I need to actually finish this thing. And I've got everybody earmarked for the art and the mastering and everything. So that's been taking up the majority of my time, which is nice because I've been taking a break from going to engineering college. And that's 11 straight semesters of that will make you a little crazy. So with no breaks in between. So I think I've been spending most of my time with the music, and that's been like helpful. And just, we have our partners and everything. They help us keep positive during this period of time. We can talk to them, obviously, about the situations. Since the four of us haven't actually seen each other and hadn't, not on a screen. And, since February when we walked out of the mastering and went like, all right, so these talks help too. That's positive. The interviews are great, man. So thank you again for that.
I've been playing more guitar than I've played in a long time, so that's been pretty nice. I haven't been feeling super creative, but I've just been working on miscellaneous things that I usually don't even have the time to think about, so that's been really cool.
In my case, I've been finishing writing the vocals and lyrics for the Sepius record, which it's been taking me a long time to do, but I have finally finished writing them, and now I need to, sometime in the next month or two, probably record the final vocals. I've been writing a little new material on guitar for our other band, Weeping Sores, which has me and Steve in it. So that's been another musical outlet for me. I've been working on my voice a lot, just trying different techniques, doing mechanical exercises to improve some registers and tones I don't normally use. And I just changed careers and became a software developer. So I've been doing a lot of work on that. So I've been distracting the shit out of myself because every time that I have a moment to pause and reflect on what's going on, I want to freak out like most people would if they're paying attention. So yes, that's many tactics have been involved in keeping my chin up through it, but it's going okay so far.
So Silence, Jobs, Digital Shinies, Records.
Right.
The other bands, Metal Archives will love this interview. They're going to be taking notes. But yeah, thank you guys so much for sharing. Not the easiest thing to get asked about your art and give really great answers. Thank you so much for your time. Congrats again on Abscess time, and keep your spirits up. I like hearing the PMA there. It's not all terrible. It's just a weird time. None of us have ever, this is just bizarre, and we're just like, what the hell? But yeah, I'm really thrilled for y'all, and I hope we get everything back, and I get to see you guys on stage where you're supposed to be, beside the studio and beside other things.
Hell yeah, man! We can't wait to play. We're dying.
Sooner or later, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere.
Outdoor shows will, as soon as they're actually okay,
We'll figure something out, man. We want to play really bad. But in the meantime, there's like 25 or 30 videos of us from Frank Huang on YouTube. So I guess people can watch those.
You can see
Frank is the man.
Frank's the man.
You can see some of the material from the new album if you look at the videos from the past year or two. We've been playing songs from Abscess time since 2018, right?
Yeah.
That's when we started writing, 2018.
Yeah, I mean, maybe even earlier than that. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.5 years already.
We've played probably 4 or 5 of the songs live, I would say. So it's out there.
Amazing. And thanks to Frank. He rules. Thank you again, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Congrats on Abscess time. And we'll do it again sometime. Thank you.
Cheers, man. Thanks so
Thanks
much.
a lot, man.
They say